My name is Rachel Moore. I'm 27 years old, and this story starts on the day that was supposed to be the proudest of my life. I had just finished my master's degree in accounting, the first person in my family to get any kind of graduate degree. I worked nights, took loans, lived on instant noodles, and cried over spreadsheets more times than I can count. My parents kept saying, "When you walk that stage, we'll all be there. We're so proud of you." My older sister Kelly promised she'd bring her son Tyler, so he can see what a real achievement looks like. I should have listened to the tone she used when she said it, but I wanted to believe her. After the ceremony, we all went to a small restaurant near campus. I had a cake made with my name and "Congratulations, Rachel" in blue frosting. People were clapping, cameras out, and for 1 second, I actually felt like the main character of my own life. Then Kelly's 14-year-old son stood up, grabbed my cake with both hands, and before anyone could stop him, flipped it straight onto the floor. Frosting splattered everywhere. Plates and forks crashed. He smirked and said, "Eat it off the ground, Aunt Rachel." The whole table laughed. My mom laughed. My dad laughed. Kelly laughed the loudest. I stood there, covered in frosting and shock, and I didn't say a single word. I went home that night shaking. A few hours later, my mom texted, "We've chosen to sever all contact. Stay away forever." Kelly liked the message in the group chat. I stared at the screen, wiped the last bit of cake off my shoe, and replied, "Removing my name from every loan tomorrow." By midnight, my phone showed over 100 missed calls. That was the moment my real graduation started. Growing up in Ohio, in a small town outside Columbus, I was always the responsible one. My parents, Lisa and Dawn, had my sister Kelly when they were young and still figuring life out. By the time I came along 5 years later, they were tired. Kelly was the wild one, the loud one, the one who skipped homework and went to parties. I was the quiet kid who did her chores, got good grades, and didn't cause trouble. My parents used to joke, "At least we got one easy kid." It sounded like a compliment, but what it really meant was, "We don't have to worry about you, so we won't." When Kelly got pregnant at 19, dropped out of community college, and moved back home, the whole house went into crisis mode. My parents scrambled to help with Tyler. They rearranged rooms, picked up extra shifts, and fought about money every night. I was 14, trying to study for tests at the kitchen table, while my mom rocked a crying baby in the next room and my dad yelled about bills. Anytime I asked for something small, $20 for a field trip, help with a project, my mom would sigh and say, "Rachel, now's not a good time. You know things are tight. You're the strong one. You'll figure it out." That sentence followed me for years. "You're the strong one." It sounds nice until you realize it's just an excuse not to show up, an excuse not to help, an excuse to dump more and more on you because you can handle it. Kelly grew up knowing she could crash and my parents would cushion the fall. I grew up knowing if I stumbled, they'd say, "You're fine, get up." So I learned to get up. I learned to budget. I learned to say yes when my family needed something and swallow it when they didn't return the favor. I didn't realize I was being trained for something much bigger, becoming my family's walking credit score. When I turned 18, I got a small scholarship and a work-study job at a state university. It wasn't fancy, but it was my way out. My parents hugged me at move-in day and said, "Don't get into trouble like your sister." Kelly rolled her eyes and said, "Relax, she's a nerd. She'll be fine." That first year, I worked at the campus library and a diner off campus to cover what my scholarship didn't. I learned about interest rates and credit cards in class, and about overdraft fees in real life. I was doing okay until one Christmas, during my sophomore year, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table. Their faces were serious. Kelly was there too. My mom cleared her throat and said, "We need a huge favor, honey." Kelly had found a second-chance car loan she got approved for in theory, but the dealer wanted a co-signer with better credit. My dad's credit was rough from old medical bills and missed payments. My mom's wasn't much better. I'd only had a student card for a year, but no late payments, so my score was clean. It's just paperwork, Kelly said, waving her hand. I'll be making the payments. You won't have to do anything. You want Tyler to be safe, right? I can't drive him around in that death trap I have now. She pointed out the window at her old car with the rusted doors. My parents nodded along. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't important, my dad said. You're the only one they'll approve. I felt sick. I knew co-signing was serious. I also knew that no in this family meant you were selfish. I pictured my little nephew in that rusty car. I pictured my parents' disappointed faces. I signed. A few months later, they asked again, this time for a small consolidation loan to help my parents get on top of things. Then a store card my mom wanted for emergencies, but needed someone with better credit to open. Each time, the same phrases. You're so good with money. We'll make the payments. You're saving the family. On paper, my name started stacking up on accounts that weren't really mine. In my soul, I started stacking up resentments I didn't dare speak. Tyler grew up like a tornado in our house. From the time he was little, Kelly joked that he was a handful and just like her. He threw tantrums, broke things, and talked back to adults. People would laugh and say, he has personality. I'd watch him knock over a glass on purpose, look straight at my mom, and say, you'll clean that up. And she would. He's just a kid, she'd say. Pick your battles. But the battles she chose to skip became habits. When Tyler was 8, he accidentally shattered my laptop screen because I wouldn't let him play games during a video lecture. He slapped it off the table with his hand. I had to withdraw from the class because I couldn't afford a new computer. My mom said, he didn't mean it. We'll help fix it when we can. They never did. I worked more shifts instead. When Tyler was 10, he told me, Mom says you're lucky you don't have real responsibilities, just school. While I was balancing work, classes, and loan paperwork I barely understood. Kelly let him talk to me like that. Sometimes she encouraged it. Yeah, Aunt Rachel. When are you going to grow up and have a family instead of just degrees? She'd say, smirking. My parents never corrected her. They laughed and changed the subject. Tyler learned that the women in his life would clean up his messes and stand between him and the consequences. My mom would defend him by saying, he just has a strong personality. My dad called him a boy being a boy. I called it disrespect. They called it Rachel being too sensitive. Somehow, in their minds, I was the problem. I was the one who needed to lighten up. I kept my head down and told myself, just get through school. Just build a life. Just get to the day when you graduate, and maybe they'll finally see you as more than the backup adult in the house. I had no idea that on that day, all of this would collide over one stupid cake. Finishing my undergraduate degree took me 5.5 years instead of 4. Every time I got close, something happened. A family crisis, a financial emergency, a new payment I had to cover because a loan we had fell behind, and creditors started calling me, not them, because my name was on the line. I didn't party. I didn't spring break. I didn't go to football games. I worked. Library in the mornings, diner at night, random temp jobs in between. I got used to sitting in class foggy from lack of sleep, drinking cheap coffee, and reminding myself, this will be worth it. When I finally graduated with my bachelor's, I expected at least a small celebration. My parents came to the ceremony, sat in the back, and clapped politely. Afterward, my mom hugged me and said, we're proud of you. But what's next? Kelly said, don't get too comfortable, the job market sucks. It wasn't cruel, just thoughtless. No cake, no party, no dinner. They said they couldn't afford anything big. I let it go. I told myself it didn't matter. What mattered was that I got through. Then I got an offer to stay for a master's program with tuition partly covered if I worked as a teaching assistant. It was a huge opportunity. My parents barely reacted. My dad said, more school? When are you going to start earning for real? Kelly said, wow, must be nice to delay adulthood. I knew they didn't understand. I also knew that if I could get the master's, my salary could jump enough to finally get ahead of the loans and maybe someday buy a home of my own. So I pushed on. 2 more years of classes, grading papers, working weekends, and watching interest creep up on debts I hadn't created alone. Sometimes, late at night, I would stare at the online loan portal and see my name attached to balances that weren't even in my bank account. In those moments, I didn't feel like a person. I felt like a product, a tool, a line of credit with a heartbeat. I told myself my graduation day for the masters would be different. I'd make sure of it. I'd invite friends, pick a restaurant, order a cake with my own money. I would celebrate myself even if no one else did. I didn't know that my own family would turn that day into a test I didn't know I was taking. For my master's graduation, I decided not to wait for my family to make plans. I booked a reservation at a mid-range Italian restaurant near campus. Nothing fancy, but nicer than the places we usually went. I ordered a cake from a local bakery with, "Congratulations, Rachel, class of 2026, written in blue. I invited my parents, Kelly and Tyler. I also invited 3 friends from my program. I didn't tell my family about the friends because I knew they'd complain about strangers being there. The morning of the ceremony, my mom texted, "We're running late. Tyler didn't want to get up." I replied, "Okay, see you there," even though my stomach tightened. They showed up halfway through, just in time to see me walk across the stage. I looked up into the crowd, spotted them, and for a moment, all the late nights felt worth it. After the ceremony, my friends hugged me, took pictures, and said, "You did it." My parents gave me a card with $20 in it. Kelly said, "Congrats, Professor," like it was a joke. Tyler barely looked up from his phone. At the restaurant, the staff put us at a long table. My friends sat on one end, my family on the other. The mood was awkward. My dad complained about parking. My mom fussed over Tyler's order. Kelly made snide comments about student debt and useless degrees, not realizing how ironic that was considering whose name sat on half the loans she used to keep her life afloat. I tried to keep the peace, introducing my friends, making small talk. When the main dishes were done, the lights dimmed a little and the staff brought out the cake. Everyone clapped. The waiter set it in front of me. My name looked perfect on that white frosting. For a moment, I forgot about everything. I smiled. Someone started singing Happy Graduation, and I leaned in to blow out the little candle they'd added on top. That's when Tyler moved. Tyler stood up so fast his chair scraped the tile. Before anyone could ask what he was doing, he reached across the table, grabbed the cake plate with both hands, and yanked it toward him. The cake wobbled. I froze, thinking he was going to make a joke and maybe smear a tiny bit of frosting like some kids do at birthdays. But he had a different plan. With a quick, sharp motion, he lifted the whole cake off the table, looked me dead in the eyes, and flipped it upside down. It hit the floor with a wet, dull thud. Frosting and crumbs exploded across the tiles. A piece flew and landed on my shoe. The entire restaurant went silent for a second. Then Tyler looked down at the mess, laughed, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "There, eat it off the ground, Aunt Rachel." Time slowed. I heard a bus drive by outside. I saw the waiter's shocked face. I felt my own cheeks burn. Then I heard it, my family laughing. My mom let out this high, nervous giggle and said, "Tyler, stop it." But she was smiling. My dad shook his head and chuckled. "This kid..." Kelly laughed the hardest, slapping the table. "He gets his sense of humor from me," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. My friends stared, mouths open. One of them started to stand, saying, "That's not funny." But I put a hand on her arm. I stood up slowly.